Every single second, right now, a giant slab of rock the size of an entire continent is flying silently above our heads. It weighs 80 billion tons, and strung between it and our planet is an invisible yet colossal gravitational tether. We're used to thinking of the moon as just a pretty nightlight, inspiring poets. But what if I told you that without this dead rock in orbit, Earth would transform into a hellish oven with winds tearing through at 500 kilometers per hour, and life in the oceans wouldn't have been able to emerge at all? Right now, the moon is literally deforming the Earth. It stretches the global ocean like a giant rubber ball, pumping trillions of tons of water from one hemisphere to another. But the scariest part is hidden underwater. On certain days of the year, the moon's gravitational magic creates phenomena capable of wiping out entire cities in a matter of hours, or conversely, triggering billions of marine creatures to simultaneously stage the most magnificent ritual on the planet. How does 380,000 kilometers of vacuum control things you never even guessed? And why is this grip weakening with every passing year? Today, we unlock the true power of the secret master of our oceans.
We've all known the simple formula since school. The moon pulls the water, creating a tide. But think about it for a second. If the moon is pulling water toward itself, why does a high tide happen on two opposite sides of the Earth at the exact same time? Why is it that when it's high tide in New York, the exact same thing is happening on the opposite side of the planet? Most people can't answer this question, but the mechanics behind it are brilliant and simple.
The moon's gravity doesn't act equally on the entire Earth. The side of the planet closest to the moon gets pulled the hardest. There, water is literally lifted upward. The center of the Earth is pulled with an average force, but the far side experiences the weakest pull. As a result, the Earth itself is essentially pulled away from the water on the far side, leaving behind a second bulge of water. The Earth spins inside this elongated water ellipse. To us standing on the shore, it looks as if the water is coming in and going out. In some places, like the Bay of Fundy in Canada, the difference between high and low tide reaches a staggering 16 meters, the height of a 5-story building. Trillions of tons of water shift every 12 hours. But what happens when the sun joins this gravitational game? When the sun, Earth, and moon align in a straight line during a full moon or a new moon, their gravity combines. This births what are known as spring tides, the highest and most dangerous tides of all. When the moon and sun sit at a 90-degree angle, they pull against each other, and the ocean settles into gentle neap tides. We are used to thinking of tides as water moving along the shoreline, but that is merely the tip of the iceberg. Right now, beneath the ocean's surface, hundreds of meters down, the moon is creating something far more terrifying and vast: internal waves. These are gigantic underwater tsunamis as tall as the Eiffel Tower. You will never see them from the surface, but they are what mix the ocean, transferring heat from the equator to the poles and saving the planet from global glaciation. But what happens if this lunar engine starts to glitch? Scientists have already confirmed the moon is slowly slipping away from us. It drifts 3.8 centimeters further away every single year. And when it gets too far, the oceans will literally lose their breath, and Earth's climate will collapse. Let's peer into the deep. The ocean is made of layers: warm, lightweight water on top and icy, dense water below. When the lunar tide bends this mass of water and shoves it over underwater ridges and mountain chains on the seafloor, internal tidal waves are born. On the surface, the ocean can look smooth as a mirror, but 500 meters down, a 300-meter-tall monster is raging, moving at immense speed. Why do we need them?
Without these underwater waves, the ocean would turn into a stagnant swamp. The upper layer would overheat, while the seafloor would be permanently frozen. Lunar internal waves act as a giant blender. They dredge up essential nutrients, phosphorus and nitrogen, from the bottom all the way to the surface, feeding phytoplankton, the main source of oxygen on Earth. Essentially, every second breath you take is thanks to the moon churning the ocean.
Yet the moon doesn't just govern physics, it controls the biological programming of the planet. Every year, strictly following the full moon in November, the Great Barrier Reef hosts the largest reproductive event in the world. Hundreds of species of corals across hundreds of kilometers release trillions of reproductive cells into the water simultaneously on the exact same night. How do they know the precise time without clocks or calendars? They read the intensity of the night's moonlight and the force of the tidal currents.
And they aren't alone. Sea urchins and starfish synchronize the maturation of their eggs with the phases of the moon. The California grunion fish spawns on beaches strictly during the peak of spring tides, laying its eggs in dry sand and leaving with the very next wave. Even deep within our own bodies, some marine biologists suggest, ancient rhythms inherited from our distant oceanic ancestors still endure.
Now, let's run a terrifying thought experiment. Imagine the moon instantly vanished. What would happen to the ocean? First, tides would collapse by 60 to 70%. Only weak solar tides would remain. Coastal ecosystems, marshes, estuaries, mangrove forests would die off within a few short years, shattering the global food chain. Second, ocean currents would shift. Water mixing would grind to a halt. The Gulf Stream would stall. Europe would plunge into Siberian freezes, while the equator turned into a scorched desert. Third, Earth's axis would lose its stability. Without the heavy anchor and counterweight of the moon, Earth would begin to wobble chaotically on its axis, from 0 to 90 degrees. Seasons would blur together. The poles would bake under a relentless sun, while the equator froze over. The moon is not just a satellite. It is a gravitational gyroscope and the beating heart of our planet. Every time you look up at the night sky and see the glowing disk of the moon, remember, you are looking at the chief architect of our world. She is the one who set the water in motion, prompted life to step out of the ocean onto land, and kept our climate mild and stable over billions of years. We are the children of an ocean that beats in time with the lunar pulse. Which impact of the moon shocked you the most? The giant internal waves or the lunar rhythms of wildlife? Tell us in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you never miss our next deep dives into the wonders of our world. See you next time.